Bonsoir, je m'appelle Paul, je suis le prof de français ici à OnlineGrinds.ie. Firstly, I just want to say to you that we've been broadcasting now for, I think it's 6 to 7 weeks, and we're not going to be doing live grinds over the Easter break, but what we can offer you is access to every live grind we have broadcast until now in our archive section for the great deal of only €30 for every single subject. Okay, so I'm just going to go through what we would have done in our grinds from day one, and would advise you to go back and have a look at them over the Easter. So on February the 6th, we did our introduction. We looked at the rules governing the gender of French nouns. Why a noun is masculine or feminine. There are rules, and it's not simply the case of, you know, if the word ends in E, it's feminine. No, there are rules. For example, any words that end in S-I-O-N, T-I-O-N are always feminine, etc. Have a look at that before you go any further. We looked then at the basic tenses, the rules for forming the tenses, some infinitives, and we did a test in week 1 as well. Week 2, we then looked at the various different spelling irregularities that exist with regard to conjugating verbs in regular verbs. We then looked at how to make verbs negative and indeed how to form questions, interrogatives. In week 3, we moved from regular verbs onto irregular verbs. Of course, as you know, regular verbs are verbs that can be conjugated regularly. Irregular verbs are verbs that are conjugated irregularly. So I gave you the present tense table, a stem table, and then we looked at some common constructions. So remember, with irregular verbs, the present tense just has to be learnt off. But when you want to form the other tenses, le passé composé, l'imparfait, le futur, le conditionnel, it's just a case of learning a little ingredient and adding that ingredient onto the endings you would have learned for regular verbs to form whatever tense it is for that irregular verb. Okay. I think it was also in that week when I presented you with the oral exam booklet. And that oral exam booklet would be very beneficial for you doing your oral exam in 2 to 3 weeks' time. There are approximately 50 questions on the basics. Okay, I would always advocate that students learn 2 to 3 good sentences with nice juicy vocabulary on each topic, rather than learning 2 to 3 A4 pages off on the new Pope. You're not guaranteed the new Pope is going to be asked. Examiners don't ask abstract topics. They will always just ask you the basics. Remember, you guide the oral as much as the examiner does. If you say that you're a devout Catholic, they may then ask you about the new Pope. But they're not going to ask you about the new Pope having spoken to you about your favourite subjects in school. The oral is a conversation. They're not there to trick you out. It's just like a conversation you'd have in English. And if you don't know anything about the new Pope, no more than in English, you'd say in English, sorry, I don't even know his name. That's no problem. If you can converse, you don't need to be knowledgeable about all these things. If you can converse and get around those abstract topics, you can't be docked marks. In week 4, we looked at adjectives. The position, the formation, the adjective to, and possessive adjectives. We also touched briefly on possessive pronouns. I would urge you to go back and look at them. Remember that there are 21 adjectives that come before the noun, and various different spelling irregularities in terms of agreement and then positioning of the adjectives as well. The next week we looked at adverbs, position and formation. Adverbs add to the verb. Okay, we make an adjective, an adverb in English by adding the letters ly. In French it's ment to the feminine spelling of the adjective. Go back and have a look at that. Last week we then looked at reflexive verbs, les verbes pronominaux. All right, reflexive verb is used when in English there's the notion of oneself, or indeed the word get, to get up in the morning, to get angry, to get bored, to get married. That's when a verb is going to be reflexive. We looked at their position, their formation, and then we did a test as well. And this evening, today is Wednesday the 20th, we looked at le subjonctif, the subjunctive, an area where a lot of students fall. Go and have a look at that tonight as well, because the subjunctive is not only it's not actually a tense, it's a mood. It's not only something you need to be able to recognize, but you also need to be able to use it, because the subjunctive is much more commonly used in French than it is in English. So you need to be able to use it in your oral and your written. I'd like you to go back and have a look at that all over the Easter period so you're well equipped with the knowledge of those grinds before we go straight into oral work on April the 10th. There we're going to look at pronunciation, expressing your opinion, and some conversation fillers, which are words that you be able to throw in, you know, here and there to make your oral exam much more impressive to the examiner. Okay, folks, so happy Easter, and we'll see you back here on the 10th of April. Good luck with your studying, and talk to you then. Merci beaucoup, au revoir, et merci bien de nous avoir suivis ici sur Online Grinds. Merci.